Hello, beautiful people. You are welcome to the first ever episode of Physio Room Podcast on Box to Box. I'm your host, MK Jr. This podcast is aimed at educating football fans on the various injuries footballers suffer when playing football. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the hamstring injury. We all know the hamstring injury is a very common injury players suffer. But what is hamstring and what causes hamstring injury? You're about to find out, as I have with me today a doctor in training. His name is Emil. Mr. Emil, please can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Good evening, listeners. My name is Emil, and I'm a doctor in training. I'm excited to be here today to share some medical knowledge related to sports. So remain glued to your device, learn, and enjoy.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Doctor, I think the listeners would like to know what hamstring injury is. Please, can you explain or can you enlighten us on hamstring?
Hamstring injury are basically injuries to any form of injury to the hamstring muscles. Usually, the injuries are called a strain. Medically, the injuries are called a strain of the muscle. But sport lovers do like to call them pull of the muscle. So when you say muscle pull, hamstring muscle pull, or even a tear of the hamstring muscles. That's what is meant by hamstring injuries. Now, these kind of injuries are usually sustained in sports that involve sudden acceleration and deceleration, so sudden sprinting and stopping, such as running, football, and basketball. Those kind of sports that involve running fast and suddenly stopping fast.
Thank you, Doctor. I've heard of hamstring muscles. Can you tell us more about hamstring muscles and what they do?
The hamstring muscles are actually three sets of muscles found in the posterior part of the thigh, which is the back side of the thigh. The names of these muscles are biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus. Generally, muscles have a proximal and a distal attachment, in the sense that they have a point of attachment that is closer to the upper side of the body and a point of attachment that is further from the upside of the body. Now, the reason is because when muscles attach that way, they usually cross, the length of the muscles usually cross over a joint. Because of that, when they contraction of these muscles tend to cause flexion over that joint or extension over the joint. Now, for the hamstrings, the proximal part of attachment is somewhere in the buttocks, a place called the ischial tuberosity, which is like a part of the hip bone. So the proximal point of attachment is somewhere in the buttocks, while the distal point of attachment is somewhere in the upper part of the leg, just below the knee joint. So the meaning of this is contraction of the hamstring muscles usually will cause an extension of the hip joint, which is like an extension of the thighs on the hip joint, and flexion of the knee joints, which is flexion of the leg at the knee joint. The extension of the thigh is like when you stretch your legs towards your back and trying to make you reach your head. That's extension of the knee joint. While flexion of the leg is when you close up the distance between your lower leg and the upper leg. So the action of the hamstring muscles, that's contraction of the hamstring muscles, will result in an extension of the hip joint, which is assume you're stretching your legs towards the back of your head. Stretching your legs towards the back of your head. You see the position of your thigh.
Yeah.
That point is an extension. So that's one of the effects of the hamstring muscles. The second is at the knee joints, which is where they cause inflection of the lower leg on the thighs. So inflection at the knee joints. That's assuming you're closing up the distance between the lower leg and your thigh.
So, what causes hamstring tightness? Since you said the hamstring is a muscle, so there's possibility for there to be the tightness of the muscle. So what causes this tightness?
Generally, people may have tight hamstrings, maybe due to genetic reasons, in the sense that you may be born with the short or tight hamstring muscles. Or for some sportsmen, the lack of proper stretching exercise or the lack of what they call proper warm-up before practice or competitive sports because such individuals to have tight short hamstring muscles.
Okay, so I have another question. What's the cause of hamstring injuries in footballers? Is it because they don't exercise well, or is it because they don't get proper warm-up?
Well, during football, a player can sustain hamstring injury when, for example, the player is running quite fast.
Okay.
It's something that's called eccentric contraction of the hamstring muscles, meaning that as the hamstring muscles are lengthening, they are also contracting. This effect can cause hamstring injury during football. The second is if, for example, the footballer is overstretching. So, for example, if a footballer goes for a slide tackle, or is trying to do an overhead kick, or that kind of movement that moves the leg forward. By the leg, I mean the lower limbs, both the hips and the legs forwards towards the front of the body. That kind of overstretching can result in an hamstring injury during football.
So what's the recovery time for hamstring injury?
Okay, but before I talk about hamstring recovery over time, I'd like to first of all mention something little about treatment. Now, when a player sustains hamstring injury, the player should immediately receive a bit of acute treatment, which follows the principle of RICE. Now, RICE is an acronym for rest, ice, compression, and elevation. That will acutely reduce the severity of the injury.
Okay.
Then, in addition, after the duration of the injury, the player can undergo some form of physiotherapy and rehabilitation. So this will ensure that the injury properly heals, and then the structures that are torn or strained are properly closed together over time. Then the player may also receive some form of massage to relieve the symptoms. Now, in terms of recovery over time, actually this depends. It depends on the severity of the tear. It depends on whether the tear is even within the muscle or in the tendons. But generally, it takes about 1 to 6 weeks. Or if, for example, the muscle is torn completely, it might actually take more than that.
Okay.
Then also, it's important to note that someone who has sustained an hamstring injury before is more likely is at risk of having another hamstring injury. So even if the player is back to the sport, he should still take care and continue his physiotherapy over time, longer than even after he has returned back to the sport.
Okay. How do we prevent hamstring?
In terms of prevention, there's some specific hamstring training or exercises that can be undergone by the club or even the individual player. So these hamstring exercises, they help to ensure that the muscle is not tight and the muscle actually lengthens a little bit, so that an overstretching will not occur. Then it's also important to have adequate and proper warm-up before football. That will also help to prevent hamstring injuries.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today, and we hope to have you next time.
Thank you for having me. It's nice doing this next time.
So guys, that will be all for now. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also follow us on Instagram at box_2box and on Twitter at box_2_box_.